Podcast. If you're ready to grow, then let's go. This is the Lincoln County Podcast. Hey, yo, Matt, let's start the show.
Hey, I just want to say thank you to all the sponsors of the Lincoln County Podcast. Hozak Plumbing, Simply Worth, Medical Weight Loss, Town and Country Insurance, The Guild, and Boyer Academy. Thank you guys for your sponsorship, and thank you for making the Lincoln County Podcast possible. Just want to say thank you to everyone at Boyer Academy. Without the success of Boyer Academy and all the families there, I wouldn't have met all these wonderful people in and around Lincoln County that have came on the Lincoln County Podcast. So without you guys, none of this would really be possible. Having this has been a dream come true to sit down and talk to so many business owners and share my experiences at Boyer Academy, their experiences and successes with their business with everyone in and around our local area. Hey guys, welcome back to Lincoln County Podcast. As always, we're excited to have you guys here today. Make sure you check out our sponsors. Without them, none of this is even going to happen. And to be honest, they're great people doing great things, and they love the Lincoln County community. So check them out, give them a watch, pay attention to what they're doing, check out their products, and support them, because that support supports us. And as always, I thank you guys for tuning in. I got a great guest today. We're going to jump right in on just talking about everything, and we will see you at the end. So how are you today?
Good. Tracie Hulbert. They kind of call me your coverage queen because I talk about all kinds of things with women and children and families and community. Awesome. Just kind of who I am. So
what got you into that?
More just kind of, I didn't realize that being a woman, just how many platforms people would say that you were on. I was a stay-at-home mom and just kind of seeing needs in the community. Started off doing PTO and kind of traditional things, not really, I don't know, just fire in my belly. Like some things are just innately wrong. Yeah. Like how do you go to school and there's kids that don't eat lunch? And I felt it's wild. I felt wild because it was like there's little cows and white picket fences. Like what do you mean there's babies don't eat lunch? And it's not bad. Yeah. It was just I wouldn't let it happen if I knew that though. So then you start really becoming naive. Like people do that to their wives or people do that to their kid. And just kind of. And they're like, who do you work for? I'm like, I don't work for anyone. It's just wrong. Like, it's just
being a woman's advocate.
Right.
Yeah. No, well, and even for kids, women, whatever, it baffled me at different things I started doing around the community. And then you hear speakers come in and talk and you're like, wait, hold on. We have to send kids home with food because they might not eat. Like, hold on, what's going on? And this, call it what you want, but I mean, I grew up in a household where that wasn't a problem. I never had to question if I was going to have a meal. My mother was a stay-at-home mom. Food was always cooked. I ate more than I needed. Like I had a weight problem. I ate so much. So like it's baffling. So it's great that you're doing that because some of those people do need that voice.
I think what surprised me the most is you would drive through even any city you're in across the country and you see all these organizations. There's St. Joachim and Neon. There's these entities and nonprofits, and you kind of think that everything's taken care of. Like, oh, there's people that do this. There's people that are going to, and it's not that they're not doing it, but what I realized quickly is they all kind of operate in their own silo to where they don't sometimes know what the other person does or they're misinformed about what the other person does. And not in a bad way, but then when you have systems like that, there's things that just fall through the grains. Like it's just, oh, well, we don't help people unless they are within this income bracket, or they can only be helped once a year with their electric bill, or let's help this person. This person wants to get a job, but they don't have a computer or internet to make a resume or a mentor to help them write a resume.
Yeah, because you've got so many things that do things. But there are those things that slip through. It makes a lot of sense when you look at all the different programs. It's like, okay, well, and you don't even think about that sometimes, like a computer or learning how to write a resume or understanding. So like I go to New Horizons in 2 weeks to teach interview skills. Teach these kids how to come in and actually do an interview, not how to do an interview out of a textbook, but how to actually go in and talk to a business owner and interview. I guess they taught that when I was in school. I don't know. I just went in and did my first interview, but I never thought about that. It's something people need to be taught, that, who's doing that. Like you said, there's so many programs out there. There's got to be a lot of stuff that falls through.
Yeah, and I love so much that you're saying you're doing that, because I was on like the pilot of that when we started Bright Futures Lincoln County, and New Horizons was one of like my babies.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was like on paper, even no matter what, like we have unfair advantages and things that we're privy to. Like if I were coming in this for an interview, I'm able to go buy clothes or have certain things because there's this judgment of things. But you really get kind of snobby and stuck in those ideologies. Like, oh, well, they didn't even get ready for the interview today. It's like, that's the only pair of pants they have. Or there were cases that I've worked on, not so recently, but say that you were unemployed and you obtained a job, but you're homeless. But your new employer requires you to have direct deposit. The bank won't give you an account to have direct deposits because you don't have a home. So now that's a barrier for you becoming employed, and which is makes sense. And I know that there's like laws and rules, but how do you can't put
for a lot of people, it just discourages them. There's a lot of us out there that will find workarounds or are dedicated to it, but there's a lot of people who don't know better. When last year when we talked, actually the guys here at the studio came out and filmed it. One of the kids was wanting to get into carpentry or something, but he was just such a good, like he just had salesman written all over him. And so I asked him, I was like, do you have clothes to go for an interview? I said, I'll set you up, because he's like, I'd like to work for you. I'm like, you don't paint. I don't really have a sales position available, but I have a friend of mine who has a very large growing contracting business that I'll text him right now. I know he'll meet with you. And I was like, do you have a shirt? Because I was going to get him a shirt. I was like, I'll get you a shirt, because I understand that they might not all know that, or they don't understand. There were several of them I talked to. I was like, I know you like the eyebrow ring. Most employers still kind of frown on that. I was like, and listen, I got tattoos on my hands. Like, I'm not judging you on it. People look at that and they're like, oh, okay. Like, there were things that they didn't realize that it helps. And New Horizons amazing. I just spoke there actually yesterday. I went out, I did 2 talks yesterday with the kids, and then I'm back in 2 weeks. Those are good kids. They just don't have the guidance. They don't, I think a lot of us forget that we sit down with our children and explain that stuff. Not everybody does.
And I think so much vulnerability, when you're vulnerable, comes like a shame that doesn't need to be there. Yeah. But I'd be incredibly vulnerable to say, look, I really need this job. I'm homeless right now. I can't get a checking account. I'm a mess today when I showed up to the interview because I don't have running water or supplies. Yeah. And then, unfortunately, a lot of people, like, that's what you present, so that's the only thing that they see. Yeah. Not to be crude, but like, I was a stay-at-home mom at the time, and like the kids needed coats. Like at the school, you would see like kids like, oh, I don't have coats on their kids. My mom's got a coat on her, and it's always again, that shame. But it's like, my husband and I didn't always have money to like go buy the child a new coat. But I'm like, you know what? My kids grew up on hand-me-downs. I grew up on hand-me-downs. Yeah. I have a coat that my son outgrew that I can clean and pay forward. And it's not anything I wouldn't put on my own baby. So that's kind of where that idea of that started was, I think we're kind of also taught by society that if you don't have money to donate, you have nothing to give. It's like, you have time or talent, or there's a mechanic up here. I still laugh about him. He would say, Tracie, you can call me one time a year and you better not call me more than that. But I would call him and say, hey, I've got this person. Can you do this? But that was our deal. That's what he was able to give. And I respected that relationship and obeyed. But when I really started to kind of, Matt, what do you do? And you'd be like, okay, well, I can't give you a check for $10,000, but I will help you paint that place for that mom. Or sometimes a mother or father would find a shelter, a safe place for their kids to live, but maybe it needed flooring. Yes. So you're like, well, I've got carpet scraps from my floor business. I could do that for, again, donating time and talent and those things, but instead of just, it's like, what can you give me? And then finding that vessel to give to it. Well, and people think it's only being able to give money. And to be honest, most of the organizations I work with, they've got wealthy donors. They don't have people on the ground to help. They normally need the legwork or supply donations. They don't always need a check. There's, Toyota does a lot in the Troy community. There's a lot of organizations that have funding. They just need help doing it. And that's something I found, like with Bright Futures, we'll reach out to the school district and do events, but I'll call them first and be like, hey, what do you guys need? I didn't know that underwear and socks was a big need for the school districts because kids having accidents and stuff. So we've done several different things at the school where we collected underwear. Trust me, it's really weird to send out an email saying, hey, if you're bringing kids' underwear in, you can go to Nerf night. Like, it's awkward to say, but it was wild to have those. But it was great because it educated a lot of parents. We have 200 families at the school. It educated a lot of them on the fact that there are kids in our community like that. I was shocked by how many of them were like, you know what, we've been in spots before where we had to use these, and they would bring in so many donations because they're like, it was helpful for us.
And I think that we just don't think about that stuff. Sweatpants is a big one that central office will tell me they're in need of because kids falling down, rip their jeans, whatever. It's huge. And it's things that we take for advantage. And it's something like, without shaming my children, I'll sit down and talk to them and be like, listen, you guys have been to multiple continents. You go to any tournament you want. Like, we're getting ready to go to a tournament in Chicago. It's $1,200 just for them to compete. I was like, you do private lessons with some of the top people in the world. Not everybody lives your life. Like, we collect shoes as a hobby. They don't have a bunch. I have some. Nothing's too erratic. But I was like, Ben, quit telling everybody. Like, I know you think it's cool, but quit telling all your friends, like, oh, Dad's got 5 pairs of Jordan 4s. Because they may have dreamed of having something like that and they don't have it. Like, it can be taken wrong. Like, trying to teach them that without them feeling ashamed for the fact that their mom and dad hustle and work really hard. So we do have stuff like that. Because I don't eat fast food every single, like I make, there's things I don't do so I can do.
Right.
And so they're at an age now where like we're not wealthy. We're not living extravagantly, but they don't realize that maybe the person sitting next to them might not have had dinner the night before. Like, trying to teach them that at 10 and 11 is different. Like, you know, it's been great with our church and doing a lot of stuff because I think they are learning it. But it is interesting because we don't realize those necessities that are out there.
It just starts with like being grateful too. Like, I was blessed. We grew up kind of like on the white picket fence, I say, where I had a very like great life. My mom and dad are high school sweethearts. They're still together. I never wanted for anything. My father was very, I'll say like pro, like dad mom. Like, you know, like dad, like I can change my tire. I can do my oil. And if I met a partner that made that better, then good for me, but I was okay by myself. But I always knew that because I could just kind of see like real close family or not too far away. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Like, that's weird to think about, you know, but I think whenever you're grateful, like it kind of changes things. Cause I was like, oh, Tracie, you work so hard, or you're doing this. And it grew. I'm proud of it. It started at Troy R3 School District and grew to all 700 miles of Troy. But it's wild to me that it's like, it helped me though, because I humanized a need. And just by me being blunt and direct, it's like, Matt, can I have $20 for my charity? You're like, okay, like everybody does that. But if I said, hey, can you buy a can of formula because it's a holiday and that mom won't get her money until Monday, then that humanized it. And I'm not asking for me. But it's odd to me how you can kind of, I don't want to say like become credible, but it was like, why are you doing this? It's like, because it's the right thing to do. I know I was never compensated. I'm not paid. I don't know. And I kind of did it selfishly. Like, I wouldn't be able to feed my baby a bottle tonight and not worry about like, how am I feeding my baby that bottle? And is that baby over there eating? Because to me, it didn't matter what kid it was or.
Well, and I think a lot of people need to learn that too, because I'll have people reach out to me for charities or different things, and they're very vague, very passive aggressive with it. And so I've made, like, when I go around to the school districts, I tell the teachers, when you guys need something, I was like, did you know I'm not psychic? And they laugh. I'm like, shoot me a DM. I love, because snacks, like literally one weekend to school, most of the schools were out of snacks. So I bought tons of snacks up to school. But I kept telling all the teachers when they came in, here's my cell. Just text me when you guys need something. I go to the grocery store every week like everyone else. Like, I'll grab extra stuff for you guys. I don't mind it. But I don't know if your pantry is empty at your school because I'm not there. I have a program that I don't really advertise. I think I've only mentioned it once in the year of having this podcast, but I do free martial arts lessons. But a business owner or person in the community, a cop, I work with Troy PD, Sheriff's Department, has to bring a kid to me, has to come in and say, hey, I got a family that really needs martial arts. You got it.
And you're using the talent that you already have. You're already doing what you do. Yeah.
If I just said, oh, just walk in the door, you'd get your scammers. That's my vetting process. If a cop works with a kid that needs, I actually have to reach out to Main Street Elementary. They reached out the other day to talk to me, and they don't know that I have that. I just got to let them know that if you've got a kid, all I need is hey, this family needs this, and they're good. That's the vetting process. Like, but people like yourself, people like me, different ones that want to help, don't always know that the need is there. Or, hey, can you help us sponsor this? Cool. What do you guys need? I mean, what do you want to do? What do you need? And by the third time, I've had a phone call, I've had an email, I've had something that takes me away from that. And I may forget to go back. And I tell everybody, I just need you to message me. Hey, Matt, can you donate $500 to this program? Sure. Hey, we've got a thing coming up. Can you paint a bedroom for this lady? Yep. I just need to know what it is you need. I don't have the time to figure out what I need to give you. I need you to tell me directly. Hey, this family needs this. Can you provide this? Yep.
It's wild to me too, because there is that education piece where, like, I would be talking with the buddy bag program, for example, about, I mean, I was getting to where I was not mad, but I was pregnant and waddling around and just like, and they would say, like, well, where's your business card? Or like, I don't have the pretty Stanley cup with their, it's like, I just told you we could feed a kid for $3.80 for the weekend. I won't be credible if I hand you all $100 cups with my name on them. And I didn't have a business card because I wasn't going to pay for them. Here's my cell. What do we need it for?
What do you need it?
But my favorite story ever, I don't know, do you know Sheriff John Cottle? He was a sheriff up here. So I was really mad one year, like all pregnant, waddling around, and I had about 160 coats that I had collected that I was going to wash and make nice. And then I saw, I don't know, like some crazy documentary about prisons, and I was like, wait a minute, because he had the Second Chance group at the time. And I didn't know him, and I went in there and I rang the doorbell. They're like, hey, can we help you? I'm like, can I talk to Sheriff Cottle? And I got in, like, I don't know. And he's like, well, how can I help you? And I was like, well, I was thinking, you got the Second Chance thing. I'm so tired of doing laundry. I've got all my kids to do my own laundry for. I said, you guys have the inmates. Would they maybe want to launder the coats for me? And he was like, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, you've got the big washer and dryers. You got that great soap. Bed bugs were a hot topic in life. And he was like, well, I can't make them. And I'm like, no, I don't want them to do it and be like, I don't want to be something that's punitive or whatever, but they might want to do that. Help. And then so he asked them, and they were excited to do that, and actually like thanking me for letting him do. I'm like, oh, I'll let you.
Made him feel good to get back.
And it was just wonderful to see. But people had like their notions, like, you're letting the inmates launder the coats. It's like, I don't care who launders the coats. Like, I'll let him do my. Like, you're not gonna. You have all these ideas, but you're not. You're poking holes in what I'm doing. You're not gonna wash the coats for me. Like, I can only do something.
It served a purpose. It makes complete
and they were
sense.
it was so beautiful to see, because they like organized it like a store, and we took these carts to each school for them to shop off of, and
that's great.
The inmates were like thanking me, like, if I would have had, like, taking true pride. And it's like, and they didn't have money, they couldn't go buy a new coat, but they had used their time and their talent and their pride, and I love that so much, because it was given purely. It wasn't like, oh, well, I'm being made to do this, or it's like, no, they gave it purely, and then that made me feel good that those kids on the other side that were able to receive it purely, versus someone that's like, well, I gave you $5,000. How much is my article in the newspaper going to be, or how big's my logo? It's like, you're no more valuable to me as this than the mom that takes care of her kids' clothes and washes them so that they can be paid forward, or drives stuff around, or picks up that extra box of cookies or whatever. Like, this isn't to build your ego. This is to fund the mission, you know. And it's like, well, I can give them a mattress, but I want to be the one that delivers. I'm like, no, see, you're not giving it purely. You're making this about you. We're not going to exploit the children. But I think it gave me a lot of free reign with Dr. Mark Penny that allowed us to go there, and Sheriff Cottle. Like, I just think that when you're doing good and the right people are there, they'll come with you. And not to be frank, but the trash will take itself out always. It'll walk itself right out the door. I don't have to worry about it, and off you go.
The trick people need to remember too, though, that sometimes people forget, like, so I'll do a fight and I'll raise money, donate to charity. And I've had fighters or people I know reach out, man, you raised $10,000. How'd you do that? Well, I approached it like a business. I sent all the businesses that I asked to donate large sums of money, here's what you get out of it. Because a lot of them, they don't care. But the majority of them, it's part of their marketing budget. Like, you know, if you're wanting a company to give, you need to be like, hey, and you're going to get, like, at the time with the streaming and everything, I went into all the projected numbers. I'm like, your logo could get a million views. You know, when we're streamed, my fight shorts, all this, for $500, you could sponsor me. You're going to get this. But sometimes people forget too that when they go to these businesses to be like, hey, we need this, and you're going to receive this. Not just, hey, I hope, you know, feel better and donate to this program. Not everybody operates like that. Sometimes you need to have that juice in there for them to let them know that, like, you give us this, you're going to get this in return. Even if it's just a little something, because it does help, because not everybody cares. But you never know. There might be that one person that's got $10,000, $20,000 laying over in their marketing budget that goes, oh, cool, we can get some ads out. All right, here you go. Like, you never know. And I think sometimes people go a little too far with, like what you said, of just the goodness of their heart, because everybody feels that way. Now, we know that we do a lot of stuff like that. But I also know that if I can run an ad on Facebook for $300, or I can donate $300 to a local program and they're going to throw up a thank you with my logo, I'll throw it to the local program any day of the week because I've got to advertise. I own a business. There has to be advertising there. So I would rather give it locally and do that. And I've tried to do that over the past couple of years, quit advertising with anything out of state. Now I still have to run Facebook ads. We're all stuck in the social media monster. But if I can give to things locally and I know I'm going to get, we're doing a 5K, you're going to be on 300 t-shirts. Boom, here you go.
Yep.
Because they are getting something back. But without people like what you're doing and building it up like that, I mean, it's just huge. The Buddy Bags program, that's amazing. I love everything about it. It breaks my heart to kids, when they'll reach out and be like, hey, we need peanut butter and jelly. It's like, it blows me away because I didn't grow up like that either. I grew up, my parents were married. My father had a good job. I had a stay-at-home mother. I can't even tell you, like, until I was a teenager, I hardly ever ate out. I didn't have to go places for a haircut. My mom cut my hair. Like there's things that I see that just baffle me. And for the longest time, when I opened the Taekwondo school, like people would come in, they'd be struggling. I'd watch them making bad decisions. They'd be coming in going, oh, I can't afford classes, but I'd see them outside, throwing all their fast food wrappers in the trash with their quick, big malt drinks and cigarettes and everything else. And I'm like, hold on, if you stop wasting money on, and I realized that a lot of people don't know better. They've never been taught. They don't understand that if you buy a case of something and put it in your refrigerator, you save yourself a lot of money than going to the gas station 3 times a day. Like, a lot of people weren't raised like that, so they don't get it. That's just normal to them. And I realized that was when I started my public speaking, is I had to help educate more on that because I couldn't get upset with those people. They didn't know. Some of them might, but most of them probably don't.
Hi, my name is Scott Lutz with Town & Country Insurance. We specialize in personal lines and business insurance. We're at 502 East Cherry Street here in Troy, Missouri. You can also find us online at TCI.u.com. We would love to earn your business.
It's kind of odd too. I always got kind of, I don't know. I think it's good for me that I'm just so blunt, and anybody that knows, it's like, well, Tracie's going to call it, but it was always trying to categorize. It's like, oh, well, those people, or they just need to pick themselves up by the bootstraps. It's like, you have no idea what you're talking about. Why pick myself by the bootstraps? No, you didn't. Like, and then you add barriers like transportation. So they can only use maybe their government assistance card at the gas station that's within walking distance, which has all the preservatives and pizzas. But like, to your point though, like I was just on a mission with a team of good people. Yeah. And we would go belly to belly, like, okay, who's listened? Because I just think if you throw enough darts, you're going to find your people.
Oh, for sure.
And I was back to Sheriff Cottle again. I was at a church, and this guy was like, what do you need? And I'm like, I just need space. My husband, like, I had like my own stored every inch of my house because I was afraid to get rid of things. Someone might need that table, or just like almost like not a hoarder, but like you don't know what's coming next.
You never know. You never know.
Because we're covering 700 miles.
Because as soon as you throw something away, then all of a sudden somebody's like, hey, did you have one of these? You're like,
and then there's the other piece of that too. You could say, hey, Tracie, I have a washer and dryer. Do you need it? And I don't have a family right that second that needs it. Might. But then your perception of me telling you no would be like, oh, I offered her a washer and dryer and she told me no. Yeah. And then now that might have changed the ministry,
and
right?
literally as soon as you say no, someone's probably going to call and need the damn thing. Yeah.
But we had this gentleman at a church and he was laughing. I was like, what do you need? I'm like, oh, I need like space. Like I can just see it where people could go shopping and the teachers and the moms like could come in and because sometimes it was domestic abuse survivors where they would literally start completely over. And he started laughing. This older man, his name was Gary. And he was like, I've got this building I've been trying to sell for like years. It's up here. And it was like a 10,000 square foot building. And I was like, well, I don't have any money. He's like, no, you can just use it. Like, like, let me have it. And then he's like, it needs some work. And it needed little things like prettied up, Yeah. So then again, Sheriff Cottle used those same inmates that also were skilled tradesmen that none of them were violent crimes or anything like that, but like painters and plumbers and construction workers. And that team of men redid my building for free. Like I might have had to buy a $500 bucket of paint but I mean, all the labor, again, their time, their talent, their treasure, it was published. Oh, these inmates are doing that, and they were doing it good.
It made them feel good to get back too.
And they were excited to do it. And it saved me probably $80,000 in labor I would have never been able to do. But what I love so much about that is, the building had been for sale for years, and I always teased them like, you guys made it too pretty because with all of the press and everything, it sold. And they were like, oh, I'm so sorry. And the older man was apologizing. I'm like, no, it's exactly what was supposed to happen. Yeah, like it was a beautiful story and testimony. and the right people were there and the right people heard it. And thank you for letting me witness it, because it was like, I don't, like,
you can't get mad about that. That's how you
it's like so beautiful.
Good.
I was so happy. And like, there was an inmate, I don't know his name or anything, but I was again pregnant, trying to load a vacuum in, and he kind of approached me, and they were always supervised, but the guards would kind of move to make sure I was good. But he was just being a gentleman. He like came to lift like the paint or the vacuum out of my trunk for me, and they were laughing. I'm like, he's the only one here that's a gentleman, making sure that I'm not gonna go into labor out here on this park. But then
dragging everything.
But then they were like, thank you. Like again, just humanizing it. Like, we're all on the same team. We all want the right things. Like, and I talk about women and families and stuff a lot, but really it's just like, just be a person. Like, to me, it's just common sense. Like, if you and I are doing this, and then I find out that you're mad about it, or I hurt you somehow or whatever, then I don't want it either. Like, it's just not supposed to be here. Like, we just don't need to. Well,
I explain that to my instructors all the time. I'm like, we'll have a kid acting out on the mats. It's very rare. Most of the kids have a blast, but every once in a while you'll have one. I'm like, you guys, like, I'll handle the firm side. You guys, help them, redirect, do this, have them kick something. I'll give them push-ups if it's necessary, or I'll be the stern one. Because I explained to them, you guys are not always privileged to the backstory of what's going on. There's a lot of times that parents share things with me. We have, different children come through with abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, you name it. I was like, that I don't need to share it with you. You guys don't need to see this darker side of the world as teenagers. You guys just have to trust me when I say, I got this. That I'm not, because we had a kid that was really having some struggles, and I went over, I was like, you're good, go help them with a kick. And they just kind of shot me a look like they weren't doing a good enough job. And so afterwards, we all had a powwow. I was like, no, there's just things going on that are above what you know. Just remember, we're all just humans. We're all here. Just have fun with the kids, work with them. If they are mouthy, or if they are having a problem, or maybe they're weird towards you, I was like, you never know. They may have had an abusive female in their life, or an abusive male in their life. Because I'll try to read kids in the way they react with mom. If they're like, kind of holding back on getting on the mats to train with us, I'll watch what they do when I walk up. And if they pull away when I walk up, I'll be like, I'll be right back. And I'll go get one of my female instructors, be like, hey, you go over there, talk to them, see if they want to color or whatever, just to relax them to the environment. We can get them out on the mats to help mom and dad. Because I had a dad one time, the kid was freaking out, and the dad was trying to get one of the girls just to drag the kid onto the mats. He's like, just drag him on. I'm like, no, put your hands on him. And I was like, you need to sit down and chill out. I was like, you need to relax. We're not dragging or tossing your child onto the mats. This is ridiculous. There's way more going on here. And so we pulled everybody in. I'm like, all right, we need to kind of have a little chat here. Like, we're not dragging kids on the mats. Like, I don't even care if the parent tells you to do that. You don't touch them. And we were explaining that, just like you said, you've used the word a lot, humanize. Like, just think about it. Have you had bad days? Do you know how to cope with it? Maybe they don't. Bring them on the mat, show them how to hit the bag, talk about how that can help them kind of relax a little bit, relieve some stress, do things, humanize the situation, not just, this kid's being really, really irate today, or disrupting class. Like, think of it on, like you said, that human level. What could have happened? You don't know. Maybe I got a text before class that said they just found out a family member died. I've had parents do that multiple times. Hey, we just found out grandpa died, but we're gonna bring him to class. Huh? And you got this poor kid's going through his trauma, and they dump him off at the school. Like, it honestly, that's happened way more than I can believe.
But also, like, not to be, I won't even apologize for being religious, but like, you're a vessel of light. So like, I was so aware that, like, this is easy. I just have to go find a can of formula.
Yes.
Like, it was just like, I don't have to worry about how I'm going to feed my baby. Like, whatever that task
God
was.
wants you to do
it was
it.
just
You're
a taskmaster, right? It was, well, oh, it's so wonderful. It's like, no, like, I want to be able to selfishly, again, enjoy my shower over fall break and know that my hot water heater works, and not be worried about XYZ. And it's not that I'm better or whatever. Like, so it's just a puzzle or a game. Like, and then we got to where we were so good, we could fill any need within 24 hours.
That's awesome.
Anything you could point, like, oh, I need a coat. Oh, I need this. And I think that they still kind of hold true to that. So then with those, I just think whenever you're doing the right thing, good will continue to happen. But those small skills I love, just like blissfully naive, like, oh, I'll just ask. Like, how did you get Sheriff Cottle to do that? I asked. I mean, it's so insane.
simple.
But like, they were doing a publication, and they're like, how can we mimic this? I'm like, I just walked in there as a mom in the community that cares about to the man that also cares about the community. And we just, it was
genuine.
It's the easiest thing I've ever done in my life.
A sale.
But I look like a genius. Like, oh, we've never, so they started replicating that across Missouri because there were other programs and things, but it's like, oh, where did you go to school? It's like, I wasn't trained to do this. It was just, but then you learn those little things and it's like, you can do it again. And then you build credibility. It's like, oh, Tracie Hulbert doesn't really, like, I can post on Facebook now, like, I need someone to help me with a friend. They don't know that it's not my sister or a friend, but they know if I'm saying it out of my mouth, then my people will come and help me with my friend. And they don't care where they came from or what vessel and it's wild because I haven't been here in like 10 years. But again, you still get called into cases and you get called into like, hey, we're moving this woman and her kids. We need a twin bed. And do you know anybody? And it's wild because I can still ask because they know it's pure. Like, it's like,
well, and because of that, because you are coming from a pure place with it and you are executing and helping people, it's obvious to the others around you. And it's obvious that's what God wants you to do. You know, that's what you're here for. I spoke yesterday when I was at New Horizons. I told the kids, I was like, I was training to speak and I was going to talk, to CEOs and do all this stuff because I was trying to do it to make money. I was like, I'm going to speak, charge a lot of money to come in, help hype these people up, and then I'm going to use the money for good. And I realized that I don't use a lot of big words. I have very basic language. I don't have good grammar and stuff, but because of that, I connect better with the younger people. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I'm going to use it to speak and help the kids directly. Instead of charging $20,000, $10,000 to go speak somewhere and then using that money on something, I'm going to volunteer to go speak places and work with kids. The fact I like to wear Nike shoes, I've got tattoos all over, helps me connect with the kids. Mm-hmm. I realized that God was like, hey, dude, you don't got to go do it this way. You can just go do it. Yeah. I've got you here for this. And that's a realization I had last year or earlier this year that my brain's already on 25, that I had earlier this year that made me realize that, he has a plan for all of us. It's just where he puts you. And if you open your eyes and listen to it, like you probably couldn't add up all the people you've helped because you haven't paid attention. Like you weren't selfish enough to tally it up because you're just, okay, I can help. Oh, this baby needs form. Cool. I can go get that. That's pretty easy.
And it's like you said too, it wasn't just like me. It's like, many people along the way, like I never even thought about, and not to beat up on Goodwill, but like I could take that same coat instead of Matt using his $8 to go buy that coat at Goodwill to give his kid. I'm just giving. So I could just give it to you directly. And that person could use that $8 to buy another meal for their family. Yes. Or, I don't know. It's just,
and it doesn't hurt you at all.
Yeah. Because it's what you're already doing. And then like now I'm in insurance, which is, boring old insurance. Mm-hmm. And then it's funny to me because it's like, no, it's still a vessel of protection. Yes. It's just a different vessel for me that's safer for me. Mm-hmm. But like with that also comes like a team of women that want to like support their kids and be on their own feet. And like, I take that mentorship piece very serious. It's like, I want to get you employed and on your own to where you can take care of yourself. And that's my only mission. And it's what I've always done. It's like, and men too, but it's like, no, just grassroots. I'm not above doing anything. I'll work my butt off. Mm-hmm. And if you want to do it too, like watch, cool. And I know you first time formally meeting today, but I will put my name behind you. Like, oh, Matt does good. Mm-hmm. So I need a painter. Like, oh, you need to call Matt Boyer Painting. Like, appreciate that. Because I know what the other piece of that is. It's like, if they need it, then why not give it to somebody that's going to like do good
with it.
Right.
Well, and I've had a lot of people, I've realized like I started doing a lot of stuff to the community because it made me feel good. And I saw a lot of big businesses did it, supported the community. And I was like, cool, I want to be like them. I want to support like the other big businesses do. And when I'm big one day, I can support more. And then it grew into like people going, yeah, we want to train at your school. We hear, I just had someone tell me the other day, I've always heard of all the good things that your academy does. It's cool to be here now and see it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, that's really powerful to know that like you came in because of an ad I ran, but you only answered the ad for this trial we had because you already knew of the cool things we did. I didn't do it with that set out. Like I didn't know that was going to compound to where when I would do this, I would get the, blah, 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 blah. That wasn't it. I did it out of a selfish place where it felt good to help people. It felt good to get back. I would have people reach out, be like, hey, could you donate paint for this? We're going to paint this house for charity or whatever. Because I used to go in and do bedrooms for little girls with cancer that were diagnosed terminal. And I would go in and paint them myself. And it was something that started out, I think someone asking for a donation. I was like, I'll come in and deck their room out. Like I'll stripe it. I'll do some cool stuff. And I've had a lot of those where people are like, hey, could you donate paint? I'm like, well, paint it. Huh? I was like, yeah, we'll paint it. No big deal. They're like, oh, I would hate to ask you to do that. Why? I'm offering it. Like you said, you just have to ask. It's really not that hard.
And I think people give what they want to give anyway. If you really listen to people, like,
Yeah.
I mean, I love certain things, but like, I'm not a painter.
Yeah.
Like, but it's like, well, I mean, it's not gonna be pretty, but I'll try. Or
Yeah.
like, you know, like, but I think whenever it's something you're already doing too, it's easier. It's like,
Oh yeah.
well, Matt, what do you want? Can you donate paint? I could. Okay. Well, you're a painter. So then they're going to raise funds to pay you X amount of dollars an hour, or that could also be your give,
Yeah.
or maybe you don't want to give the paint, but I love mechanics for that reason. Cause they're so funny. Like, there's a windshield replacement company, and we had a domestic abuse survivor who had their window shot out. And they're like, why are you calling me about this? You know? And I'm like, well, you sell windows and she needs windows so she can drive her car. Like, well, we can give it to her for this. Like, okay, well, let me see how many paychecks that takes to get. And then when you, again, humanize it, what happened? Does she just need to pass inspection or whatever? It's like, well, her alleged ex-partner shot her window out and now she can't get to work because, and they're like, oh my God, like, because nobody wants to talk about it. And I know it's not a fun thing to talk about, but then that's a problem. No one talks about it. So then they live in shame and they're on their own. And I'm not asking for a windshield for myself. I'm just saying, that's messed up.
Help this one out? Yeah, it's messed out. They're in a situation.
But that same person that is the victim or is suffering, they can't really go and because then they're asking for themselves, which shouldn't be the same. It is degrading.
It's degrading to people to ask that. You know, I've struggled with that. We've had programs at the school, and I'll have kids come in and try class, and they love it. And the moms or the dads will be like, well, you know, I got to talk to the spouse, whatever. And I'll tell them, I'll work with you. Like, we can split it into 2 payments. We can split it into 3. We can discuss options. Like, I will work with people to my best ability. Like I tell them, you know, the landlord still needs me to actually pay rent. I have to actually feed my family, but I will work with everyone. But and trying to do it in a way that letting people know it's okay. Talk with me. I'm not judging you. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to be like, ha, no. Like, I want to help. I want to see your kid do martial arts. I get it if you need to you want to sign them up today so they can get their uniform, but you need me to run the payment Friday. It's fine. Mm-hmm. I really and truthfully I can't even tell you. I cannot tell you anytime I've done that it's bit me in the rear end. Now, I've had people come in and then quit or whatnot or ghost me, but I've never had anyone where I've really genuinely worked with them to where it didn't work out or they took the uniform and ran or they, you know, like I can't.
It's funny because I think people always regress back to that too, because I think it's like a protection method. Like, oh, I would help them, but like, well, what are they doing with the money, or why can't they make their bill? And I've always said, it is not my responsibility what they do. It's my responsibility I'll just use someone on the side of the road. If I feel called to give them the $5, it's my responsibility to answer what I feel in my heart to do. It is now their responsibility to do what they want to do. But on the community-wide spectrum, it's like, I'm not going to worry about the 1% because I'm helping. You're
still going to help. And you know what? Maybe someone's seen you do that and that created a chain reaction for them to do something. Yes, that person did something bad with it, but this one over here seen it and it inspired them, so it did do good.
Yeah, and to your point, they didn't do it. Like, there's a family now that it's literally been about 17 years later. I would pick them up and take them to a church on Wednesday nights where they could get, it was like one good meal a week where I knew they could do that. And then they started coming on Wednesdays, like, can we go a little bit earlier? And they would help prep the food, and they would help do the dishes or stack the chairs. And I'm right along there with them with my babies. And it's not just me. There's thousands of people that helped all this. But like you said, you taught them. It's like, well, I don't have money. I'm not going to, and maybe at that time they were struggling in a different thing. But again, what could they give? I can give my time. I can stack those chairs.
And that helps.
My kids can wipe on. And it's just as important as the person that sits back and writes the check or what. It's just, I don't know. It's been one of the greatest things to sit back and watch, because I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't trying to do anything. I really didn't need a hobby. It just kind of happened. Yeah. But then it made me, I'm like, it's like, maybe this is like it's kind of a beast thing to do. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, I can do it again. And I've done it 3 other times.
Well, and you can help so many people with it. You don't have to be a millionaire to do it. You just have to go out and take action and put that foot forward. It's wild that people they don't grasp it. They don't pick it up, or, well, they're going to do this or they're going to do that with it. I was at the gas station a little while back. We were getting some ice. We were getting gas. I had a trailer. I forgot what else we were grabbing. And I watched this dude, and he was kind of standing there, and I was just watching him. Something about him kept attracting my attention. I watched him scope everybody in the station out and do this and that, and he started walking my way, and I was like, okay, what's he got? And he was like, hey man, can you lend me some money for gas? I'm trying to fill up, blah blah blah. And it was obviously a hustle. Like it was either a hustle or he was putting on a very confident, salesy kind of facade to get the money, but I felt there was more going on there. And I was like, yeah, I'll fill your tank up. I was like, just give me a minute. He's like, oh, okay. And he walked over, he's kind of standing in his car, and I watched him kind of looking around. I went in, I paid, I think I got the kids a soda, or I got me an energy drink. I think I got them a slice of pizza. And I told the girl at the desk, I was like, and put $25. I was like, okay, if we put 25 on and if he goes under, will it just credit back to my card? Like, yeah. I was like, all right, throw $30 on that pump over there. And I walked out. He's like, hey, were you able to, to help me? I was like, yeah, man, go ahead, fill it up. You're good. I said, it'll kick off. And I watched him fart around for a second and then go inside to do something. So I think he had another hustle planned. So my wife's like, what'd you just do? I'm like, I filled his tank, but I don't think that's what he was wanting cash for something else. I was like, but he told me he wanted to fill his tank, so I told him to fill his tank, just run my card. And then I called back up there. I'm like, hey, was everything? They're like, yeah, we put some gas in it. I don't think they filled it. I think there was something else there, but it's not for me to judge. He needed some gas, whether, he used the cash he got from someone else or whatever he was up to. He was, you could vibe it, he was up to something. That's not for me to judge. I showed my kids, that's someone that's in need. I can take care of that need. I put gas in his car. Because he didn't go, oh no, actually, could you just give me $20? He was wanting gas, so I told him to fill it up. I explained to my kids, so my wife's like, he seemed kind of squirrely, like something else was up. I was like, I understand, but I'm teaching my children to do good. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't care if it costs me $30. I don't care if they don't even put gas in it and it just goes back in my card, whatever. I'm teaching them we're not judging him. We're just going to help him out, and that's it. We don't need to worry about what he does with it. That's not our business.
It makes me so grateful too, because nothing that's ever happened to me and my even when I get mad or frustrated, mm-hmm. It's like, God, I can't imagine that being how I get my gas money, or
exactly
and I'm very blessed. I have my Tracie Hulbert, my sweet husband. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not oh, I just get to do this, but I'm just man, I can't imagine at what point would I have to do XYZ for that to be my survival mechanism.
Yes.
And that makes me more motivated and grateful. But but it's funny because I'm so sweet, but I either like people or I don't like them.
Yeah.
And it's confusing because people are my husband's gonna be oh, we're at a stop sign, there's this person. But it's so cheesy, but sometimes my husband just opens it up oh, she's gonna want to give him and himself too. And then sometimes I'm no, they don't get anything. I just know.
Yeah.
But it's wild because the people that look the scariest are the typical, or they have their sign, and I'm not.
It doesn't matter.
Judging, but it's just so nice. Yeah. It's so freeing just to be I sleep fine. How do you sleep at night? I just sleep just fine. Roll over right to bed. Yep. And I don't think about it because I think out of all the horrible things I've witnessed and again, I didn't survive them. I just had to hear about them, and that's how inconvenient this is for my life, But I got that. It was no, I get to see people within a second of seeing them and know oh,
if you're drawn to help them,
you're supposed to, and I just help them just to be here. They'll go to hug me, and sometimes I won't hug anybody, but some people I'm oh hi, and then I just know, and I'm grateful for that because I'm kind of not a cold person, but
well, and God puts them in your bubble. They put them there. You don't always know why. There was a long time at the martial arts club, walk outside at night and I'd stare up the sky and I'm like, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. I'm going through hell right now with businesses, personal life, having kids, the whole life of just being an adult. And you sent someone in tonight that's crying at my front desk because they've been being abused and they want to get into martial arts to protect themselves. I'd literally walk out and stare at the sky and be oh, what are you doing to me? I've had such a bad day. I'm completely stressed and beyond it. And then you're going to be and let's add a little bit of this. But some people, he directs in that because that's what he wants you. And it made me realize that he was pushing me to focus on martial arts. That was where my skill, my passion, my talent is, and use that as my vessel to help people. Use that business and quit dabbling in all the other businesses and all the other stuff. He wanted me to double down on that. And it took me a while to realize it. And it's one of those that I don't think everyone... I'm blessed that I figured it out, that I went, okay, I'm being like pointed in a direction. I talked to my pastor about it, because when we started going back to church is when it all started like firing. I was like, oh, I'm supposed to be doing all of this. And I've done my testimonies. I've been on a lot of different Christian men's podcasts and talked about like my journey with it. But it's good to do. You know, there's things that'll pop up and people will say like, why are you doing that? Like, I want to. Like you said, you just know. Why'd you give that one money but not that one? I just know. I just did.
I'm Stu. I'm the founder and president of the Guild Men's Fellowship. As a first responder, I know firsthand what it's like to pour into your community and lose sight of personal aspirations. And that's why I founded the Guild. The Guild is a nonprofit that offers personal development programs to first responders and veterans since 2019. We offer our services completely free of charge. Peer support, critical incident stress debriefing, our flagship program, Stations Immersion Camp, and one-on-one coaching is accessible by people who apply and are approved through our website. Like all nonprofits, we need people and funding. And one of the ways that we've come up with to solve the funding issue is to take our curriculum and put it into modules that are teachable to your organization or agency. In this way, we can further your mission by putting your investment to work for people who have served. If you're interested in finding more information or applying for our services, or if you're interested in helping by booking us for trainings, keynotes, or consulting, visit our website, guildfellowship.com.
You know, like there was a young man, and he was the sweetest little thing. Met him at New Horizons, and he was about the same size as my husband, so I was able to get him like a little shirt.
Oh, cool.
And like, and it's funny because we're still friends on like Facebook today. He's a man now with children. And,
Oh, that's awesome.
but I was like momming him. I'm like, you need to take that earring out, and like you need to. And I was, you know, and then like not getting on him, but like, you know, and it was so sweet because he came for this interview day, and he had listened to like kind of the things like trim your nails, like you need to control everything you can, and it was a good job. I mean, this was like a Toyota. This was like a life-changing. You got a golden ticket, and I would yell at him. I'm like, don't embarrass me, because not only are you ruining it for yourself, you're ruining my credibility. And if I love you and I want to help you, but the second you screw this up for somebody else, I'm done. Like,
well, have you ever noticed with those kids too, especially up there, and I've worked with them up there more than anything, how like, so they'll come up and, for anyone listening, you can't see me, but they'll come up like their posture, they're down, or they're doing defensive things. And when you start talking to them and you're like, you give them a compliment or something. I worked with one girl last year. She was like this at the beginning. And as we went, and by the time we were done talking, she was sitting up intently. She had taken her, and I was like, is there a reason you have your earbuds in? She's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, no, you're good. I know you guys at your age, you wear them all the time because you can hear through them. But it looks bad when someone of my age is speaking to you about stuff. And it's wild how with just a couple little compliments, their posture and their demeanor changes. And whether it resonates that day or in 5 years, you have helped them. Like you said, you're still friends with that person. That was a big opportunity for them. It's huge. Have you ever noticed that, how just like working with those people sometimes and not being negative, just giving them positive feedback? Like no one's told them, hey, take your earrings out or trim your fingernail. Like,
it's just like, honestly, like I remember I was getting some slack, some guff from my husband included, like, Tracie, like, I love that you do this, but you can't be driving some like 6-foot man around in your car. Like nobody, this was like before cell phone, like, and I was again ignorantly naive, but I remember they got the position and they were in my car and I was driving them back, and the first thought that person had, I mean, like, things that probably you and I have never worried about. They got the job, hadn't even had a paycheck yet, and they were already talking about how they were gonna take care of their mom and their little sister, and it was a good job, but like $9 or $10 an hour. Yeah. Literally, like maybe not eating for days, not even a paycheck, and it was how they were gonna now be the provider and the protector of their sister and mother, even better. And I just like stopped the car. Like, that is so beautiful that you're already thinking about how you're going to do that. But the better you are and the stronger you are, you're going to be able to do even better, that job. Yeah. But it was just like so humbling to me, because like my probably 10-year-old at the time was in the backseat with probably $30 in birthday money or whatever. And it's not that money's everything, but like, but different worlds. But would Miles be going to get a banana for his little sister on the way home because he got the job? Like I don't know. It was just really pretty to see. And then it was a couple years after I had met them, and I have a lot of people that are still in my little things, but they kind of, can I be your friend on Facebook? And it's like, I don't care. I'm like, oh wow, you
go for it. Yeah.
But it's really sweet to me because I feel like they're the ones that like, oh, there's Tracie's baby, or
yes,
great job, or I mean, just it's silly, just like a silly little heart or whatever. But I know that they're like still, because I remember their first and middle and last name, and
it's nice when they do.
And I know way too much about their personal life that they don't have access to my personal life.
Yeah.
Like I don't need to know everything that I need to know, but I know that that's an honor, and I thank you for letting me be even with you. But I love now that some of them are like they have their own children.
Yeah, and
it's just beautiful to see, like they're here.
I think, and this has been a new revelation for me with the religious stuff, because I'm new back to church and I never had a very high opinion of church or religion. But I think God does that for a reason, to show us that, hey, that worked. Like I had a speech I was working on and I was struggling because the premise I wanted to use, I'd actually gotten from a comedian. But the way he said it, you know, isn't you can't do that in this day and age. And I was struggling, and like day before I went to do this talk with these kids, it was at the sheriff's camp. Another podcast I listened to, the guy said the same premise and he worded it differently. And I was like, oh, that's perfect. Wrote this speech, went to the camp, worked with the kids. And like, they were so glad I was done when I got done talking. And I didn't talk long, but it was right before food. They were out at summer camp. They were hot. And it was one of my first ones, like talking to the kids, not just doing martial arts stuff. It was one of my first ones. And I got done and I was like, damn, that bombed. I was like, maybe I'm wrong. And I had a kid stop me on the way out who had trained with me. He's autistic. He's developmentally slow too. There's a few things going on. Sweet, sweet, sweet kid. And he's like, so what you're saying is, and he broke it down for me. And I was like, that's exactly what I'm saying. He's like, that's awesome. Because he's heavy set, he's slow, he's not, because I was explaining to him that you could have a winner voice without winning a baseball game. You just have to be happy about things. Like I had shoes to put on this morning, celebrate it. Some people don't have shoes. Mm-hmm. That's a win. You didn't have to be the guy that hit the home run. And you could tell it resonated with him. And I was like, wow, if it resonated with him, nothing against kid, he's slow, then it resonated with everyone else too. They picked up on it too. It wasn't missed. And if only he got it, I still was there. My purpose was served. I'm happy with it. And I think that God does that with those people that follow you, or that they'll tell you a story like that warms your heart after you've done something, to show you that here's the good you did. And I'm just showing you that something good's happening. I think he does that to reinvest you in it, because that way you're seeing it. You're like, oh, okay.
And that light like plays on.
Yes.
Like one of the young women, she is a photographer now, and I just get to see, like, sometimes she'll do like senior photo donation. That's awesome. And like she's using her time, talent, treasure. But then also I see a different side too, where they might be saying, I'm 9 years sober today, and I'm so excited. Like, God bless you. Like I know not why they weren't sober, but I can only imagine based on what I know. And good for you. Like that is. Oh my goodness. Like I'm so proud. And
it's awesome.
And it's funny though, because I can like comment like, oh, great job. Or like I say, like, you have no idea what this means to me or whatever. And I don't say anything publicly, but I want them to know, like, I'm still watching and we still shook our hands and we're still, in this, like I'm still here, or, that same girl, she started her own business. So she reached out, like,
that's awesome.
And we just went and had coffee and hugged and cried, and I haven't seen her, and I got to meet her baby formally for the first time. And
oh, that's cool.
But at the time I felt like, well, I'm leaving my own kids to do this, but I didn't do it for any of those reasons. And now it's just like, you know what, like, stay at home mom. I wasn't employed. Like, oh, we're going to call corporate office on you. I'm like, there's no corporate office. I am corporate. Because there's a Bright Futures in Kentucky or something. I think it was like a daycare. Oh, so they called corporate on me. I'm like, okay, tell them to fire me, please, because I'm just.
Let me know. I've had people do it before. I'm going to call your boss. I'm like, if you only knew I am the boss. Like, I always want to do that, like, turnaround thing. Be like, and I'm here.
Yeah, no, Dr. Penny was wonderful in that regard, because he would just kind of giggle like, well, Tracie, you can't, like, not him, but people, community members, or, people that want to poke holes, they would say, well, you can't do this, and blah, blah, blah. Right. And then Dr. Penny, I'd come, like, into the office or whatever, and he's like, oh, like, because, they're in their position of, but nobody, it was so, like, freeing, because I knew I wasn't wrong, because it was mine. Mm-hmm. So you can't tell me that the art's wrong because I created it. Like, oh, that's not what we do. Like, no,
No, that's what I do.
I told you what we do because I made it. So that
I have
gave
that
me,
same mentality of stuff. I'm like, no, it's fine.
but it kind of gave me that confidence saying like, what do you mean that's not what we do? Like almost like being gaslit. Like, no, this is exactly what we do because it's my idea. It can't be wrong. It doesn't mean that you agree with it or not. But I think that when people step into that kind of like power, I didn't get anything. I got to get my list done.
Yeah.
But you in business or in other facets of my life, I've been able to use it. It doesn't mean I'm wrong because you don't agree with what I'm saying. You just don't like what I'm saying.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean I'm wrong and you're right, or you're right and I'm
Man,
wrong.
I've had that argument with people so many times. Like, you're wrong. I'm like, no, we just don't agree. But that doesn't make me wrong. I don't agree with you. It doesn't make you wrong. No, you're wrong. No, it's not. Actually, it's not how it works. Like, just because I'm doing it, or I'm going to do this with my martial arts. Oh, that's probably not going to be right. You can't do that. Who says I can't? Well, you can't. Show me where it says that. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm like, I'm good.
Isn't it odd how people try to like pin people against each other too? It's like, oh, well, like I'm in insurance and it's a boring old insurance world. It's like, oh, well, you're friends with Dawn and she's in insurance too. It's like, I love Dawn.
Yeah.
Like I'm not like I'm not competing with her. I learned so many things from her. She's brilliant and vice versa. But like, I'm not against her. Like, oh, well, it just seems like no, because
it doesn't do you any good to be against any person.
I just don't have enough energy. I'm just so lazy. Like, I don't care. Like, if I'm not for it, like, well, what if you lose customers? It's like, well, then they're not my customers. It's not for me. I'm not, and again, it's laziness. Like, I'm not going to chase anybody. I'm not going to say things I don't mean. Yeah. I'm not going to.
Well, there's a quote. People listening right now probably know what I'm talking about, but it's, beginners compete or something like that. Millionaires collaborate, something like that. They work together on stuff. You don't, when you get to a level with your mentality, I don't even think it has to be business. When you're at a level with your mentality, you don't have to compete. Like, I have people that will reach out to me about martial arts stuff. And then a week later, 2 weeks later, I'll see them dogging on me in a post somewhere. And it's like, hold on, like, you'll never see me dogging them. I also don't reach out to them because I know what type of human they are. I don't want anything to do with them. But I don't ever feel that need to do that. I've only once, I posted one thing negative this last year, and it was amazing because it literally, I was in O'Fallon and had someone stop me because they recognized the post. And it really wasn't negative. I was just standing up for myself. I had somebody put up a post and they were knocking me and my wife over something that was fraudulent. And everybody gets a little too worried about what people think of them. And I just wanted to make it really clear. I do not care what people think of me. I know I'm a good person, but if you're going to put up something negative that's false, I'm going to stand up to you. Mm-hmm. I had a bad review today on Facebook and I stood up to the person on it because they're lying. They're mad that they don't like the white that we put on their steps. It's glaring. You said white in your email. We painted it with white. Why? It should have been a different white. Well, that's your fault. I don't live in your house. You didn't ask me to come match your trim. We didn't even walk it beforehand because it wasn't built yet. I did this all off of photos. I told you I'd prefer to come see it once it's installed. You said, well, I don't have time for that. It's not built yet, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry. We can paint it another shade. We can do a color. But you're going to pay. I'm not paying you that. You should have. How is it my fault? But I stand up for myself and then I move on. But it's wild though how people think it's all got. I've got when I do the high school this year to help them with their tech house, a friend of mine's a painter asked me if he could help. He goes, I really want to help with that. I was like, hell yeah. He has a painting company. I was like, I'd love you to help. Right. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah. Why would I care? We're teaching the future trades about painting. Why would I tell you, no, you can't help me? It's just going to make my job easier. Like, cause we graduate high school the same year. Like, he's got the same amount of experience I do. He's got just as much to give as I do. Why would I say no to that?
Because you're giving purely, and
I don't care.
Other people aren't giving. No, it's so funny to be like I said, I'm sweet, but I'm not one to like mess with. Like, it's like, no, I don't care what you think about me. You're like, and it's not that if you said like, I think you're snobby, or I don't value your opinion of me because then I don't care. But I don't think that people should just get a free pass to say, and it's like, oh, since we just all say whatever we want, then I'm not going to change what I really want to say, or and you get really protective too, because it's like, that's not who this person is, or you're not going to say that about so and so in front of me, because if you allow that to be said around me,
no, I don't play that here. You'd say what you want about me, I don't care, but you say, I'll be like, whoa, what's that? Because like when the dude had said what he said about me, I was like, whatever, loser. And then when it was like dragging my wife into it because they're there are women around town that when they do become strong women get attacked for things and their husbands sit there and don't say anything. I'm not that guy. I was like, no, I'm not that guy. Like Joey and I laugh up here all the time. We're like, I'm not that guy, bro. Like don't let the business and the following on social media fool you. I'm not that guy. I will tell you exactly how I feel when someone's in the wrong. Like when
you should have friendships like that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like I don't need you to like stand up for me or give me all the business or whatever. Like, yeah, if you're a true friend, call me out. But you should be the same person in front of me is the same in a room when I'm not in there for myself.
Oh, I tell that people that friends of mine that.
I don't need to fakeness. I can't handle it. It hurts my heart. I don't have
enough time.
Yeah.
I'll say it to you and I'll say it when you're not here. Like if I say something, you're like, hey man, did you say about me? Yeah. I thought your lines look like crap, or I think you could do better for yourself. Like it's not like we can have that talk. I'm not worried about that, but that's important for people to have. I'm a huge Deion Sanders, Coach Sanders fanatic. At this point, I'm just a fanatic. I can't even say I'm a fan, as I love Coach Prime. And his book was another sign for me to follow my path, because he talks in it. He's like, he talks about how he became Coach Prime. He went to one of his son's games and they were messing everything up. And he was like, let me help you. And they're like, dude, you just want to take over. You're Deion Sanders. And he's like, yeah. And then he built all these programs and he goes, God didn't put me here to be primetime. He goes, God took away my ability to run so he could make sure I was Coach Prime. And it gave me goosebumps when I read it. And I go back to that book all the time. Like I can't tell you how many times I've listened to it and physically read that book. Absolutely everything about his book just uplifts me. And he talks about that. That's what he's here for. Not that. And I'm a big fan of his, and I'll have people give me crap about it. Like the bibs. He wears bibs. So I seen some bibs. Oh, I'm buying them. Coach Prime wears one. I bought an actual pair of coveralls that I'm having embroidered with our logo. It's going to have a quote on the back. It's a partial quote of his. And my teens at school were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're doing that. They were messing with me, but they're like my little sisters. That's their job. They can't, if they agreed with me on something, I'd be like, are you feeling okay? Because you guys are mean to me. Like, but I've been speaking at the schools. Well, the other day we were walking Main Street going to the businesses, and a bunch of the parents were like, man, kids were telling us they thought they were loving the Nikes or something I had done. And I was like, so they like the talk, because it was, they're ninth graders. Like
you're making them.
They're so hard to read.
To humble you real quick.
I had so many parents stop me. They're like, yeah, this was great. That was great. I'm like, that's really cool. Okay. Cause like when I was getting my stuff set up, my wife, was like, what are you doing? I'm like, I just want to deck this wardrobe out. I said, I'm gonna go a little extra today. Why? I was like, I don't know. Kids might resonate with it if I wear the pink shoes. And sure enough, 2 months later, people stopping me telling me their kids came. And I didn't even recognize their kids because they're friends of mine that have businesses that I might have trained their kid, but it might have been 6-7 years ago. Like,
that's sweet.
They're going through puberty now. I don't recognize them all the time. Like, it was halfway through the speech, I realized this one kid with long hair on. I was like, that's William. I was like, holy crap, because his hair was about short as mine is now last time I seen him. But he was a little kid. But it's, you're put there for a reason. You're put in these places for a reason.
I just think like it's so sweet too. Like I forget that I matter to people too. Like there's people that love me, like and, like my good girlfriends, and like I love Angel Magasano. She's the owner of Little Black Book Women in Business. And we were introduced to them. I said, you guys are spirit animals. You need to know each other. And that was, I don't know, 10 years ago or so. But
that's awesome.
But I saw her recently, and she like knew by the look of like I always tease, like the more makeup I'm on, what a bad day I'm having, or like the bigger my hair is, just know that I'm, because I just like put more mascara on, or just like, but she's like, man, you're having a bad day. And she was teasing me, but her partner was like, man, that's a bad thing to say, and she's like, no, like but it was funny because I'm like, oh, she loves me enough to see that like Tracie looks like she's good, but is she really good or whatever? And then it's like just sweet though, because it's like stuff like my most intimate like sister would know or something, but it's just like little, or like I love Dolly Parton, like she just cracks me up. Like how long does it take you to do your hair? She's like, I don't know, it's a wig, like wherever I pick it up from, like she just says whatever. And like Snoop Dogg, like they just crack me up. But the amount of people that will be at Walmart and see some Dolly Parton or a pack of brownies, or go to Dolly with their families, and I might not even physically seen them in 10 years. Oh, you'd love the Dolly Stampede, or it's like just to be like a nuance of like to where they take a second of their life to like remember me. But it's just funny because it's like it could be Snoop Dogg saying some wild stuff with Martha Stewart or whatever. But when people see me as a person, it's like, why does Tracie care about Snoop Dogg or Dolly? It just looks like I'm the biggest flake, and I just live my little naive life. And
just have your life, you have your things. The
Yeah.
girls tease me about the Coach Prime stuff, and I was like, I take motivation in that. If I throw on something like that, I'm like, this is what Coach Prime and Coach in today. Like, I'm gonna bring extra when I talk that day, or I'm gonna bring extra when I coach, whatever. Like, it means something to me. And I was like, it was something that took me years, because I would get crap for that when I was a kid. I just went to beat my own drum, and I was picked on, bullied. Someone asked me one time, what would you do different? I said, not a damn thing. I said, because everything I've done taught me a lesson that allows me to help someone else. There's so many things I can pull from because of my life experiences. I wouldn't want to change any of it.
That's sweet.
It's easy for people to look back and say they want to change things, but to really be honest, you wouldn't be who you are now if you did. Like those paths you go down.
Yeah. Like, I wasn't popular in school.
Yeah.
But like and I bought my childhood home for my parents, and so I ran into a lot of people I went to school with. But it makes me like so happy. They're like, I just remember how smart you were, or
It's not the way we perceived high school to be at all.
But yeah, it's just like, oh wow, like I had a couple classes with you, but that makes me happy that or what, you always made me feel special, but I'm just doing life, and sometimes that's been a bad thing. Like when I was in 6th and 7th grade, like almost all my hair fell out, like just an autoimmune. I had like steroid injections in my head. I mean, and it was not. I'm fine. I'm physically fine, but people were not nice. It's hard to be a girl with like humongous glasses and you're bald but I had the best parents because I wasn't. My mom and dad, do you want a wig or. And I was like, no, like they're gonna make fun of me for my hair falling out. Like I don't care, like that. Like as far as I know, I could have had like, God forbid, the cancer. Like like you're a kid, you don't know what it is.
You don't know.
But it's funny now because sometimes you run into those like life comes full circle, and it's like, oh well, do you remember me? I'm like, actually, I do remember you, and you're a horrible person. And it doesn't mean I hold it against him, but like you're not sorry about that. You're just,
they don't even remember it half the time.
That they did it, but it's just I don't know. But it's nice to kind of. I don't care. I don't want to say how people perceive you, but it makes me happy and proud that it's like, oh, Tracie talked to everybody. I'll talk to a wall. Like I don't care, and I don't judge. But I don't know. It's just, and then people like you come into my life, like it's like, oh, he's friends with Mark Penny, and that's cool. And I love Lincoln County. It's the sweetest community. I would have never have left.
Yeah, I just talked to Dr. White about that the other day. It's the largest small town ever. Like I try to explain to people outside of the area. When COVID, everything was kind of lifting at the end of COVID, my school was exploding, and I knew a lot of people were going out of business, and they're like, what's so different up there? I'm like, because we banded together and we worked together, and now like Nick and Rachel Honey Badger are on, and we talked about how we all like just expanded so much after COVID, because during COVID we knuckled down and we worked together with everyone, and Julie Rogers, and we worked hard with everybody locally. And the difference it made afterwards, and trying to explain that to people in other areas that just shut their schools down and they only worried about themselves, and they were just worried about them, and how, in Lincoln County, we had a Zoom call and said, what the hell can we do to make sure when this is over, we're all still standing? And our community, and Julie had stats on it, was the rebound from that was huge out there. Because of the way people work together, and we didn't turn into enemies. If I had to wait 50 minutes for takeout from Honey Badger, I was happy to do it because I was excited they were busy, and I would go take photos of the different restaurants when I ate out. I gained so much weight during that time because we ate out all the time to support all the businesses. That was horrible. Like I remember afterwards dieting, being like, all right, I've got to drop some of this, because Julie Rogers I talk about, we all ate out so much, but that's what kept our community going. Everybody poured into everyone.
Julie's great, and I remember 20 years ago, that's who she is.
Julie's Julie. We have that talk all the time. That's why we get along so good.
I know, and I haven't seen her probably physically in 15 years, but like when I see her name, it's like, oh, that's where my heart goes. Like, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about with her, and then like Sherry Winchester and Christy Gregory and Dr. Amy Porter at the school district. I mean, like. I have so many beautiful people that are in my life. Like, I mean, and it's crazy when you like not itemize it out, but it's like, do you know the amount of talent and skill sets and hearts and that's who is in my circle? Like, even I haven't seen Sherry in 10 years, but I send her a little text I still get to see the fruits of her labor in her ministry.
It's great.
In her soul. And I remember when Christy Gregory was at New Horizons as a guidance counselor, and I was talking about that same young man, and she's still, she's in a different facet within the school, but you start That's the magic. It's literally magic, or it's like this is all ordained. Every second of it was ordained the whole time, and it still is. And I don't go to church regularly. It's not something I do. It's just like, but it's like no, it can be done because it's been done, and that gives that little. And not only has it been done, it's been done several times. And then there's other communities that copied it. And then like Dr. Penny, they were going to name it Bright Futures Troy, Missouri.
Yeah.
They were like adamant about it. And I was adamant about not naming that. I'm like, does it really matter if the kids
It's
live in Troy
Yeah.
School District or Moscow Mill or Ellsbury, or like, does it really matter where they
Yeah.
might need a coat? If I'm the mom giving the coat, I don't care where it goes to.
Yeah,
I'll drive it, or they can figure it out. And they use interoffice mail to meet these needs. And when you look at the wheel, it's like, that's so crazy. And like, how did you do this? And how much money? I think at one time we had helped 17,000 kids for under
Wow.
$600.
That's insane.
Yeah. And most of that was spent on like totes.
Yeah.
To
I bet.
organize.
Yeah,
and
totes are expensive.
and not worrying about lice. But I mean, but really
Yeah.
just my OCD and organizing. But because I would say we need a family that needs formula. And you'd be like, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Or we need a pair of shoes. I've got a pair of 9s at home.
You got to store it.
Yeah.
You got to do this.
But when you start planning it out, 700 miles of schools with, I think there's 60,000 kids none of that was us. That was just, it's just there. Like, it's
by leading by example, when you do something good and you do it for someone else selflessly, people pick up on it. People see you do it. People run with it. I've noticed that just been being more aware of things. Like I'll see someone do something like, oh, that's really cool. And I'll do it. And then I'll see someone else do it. And it's like, oh, okay, they got it from me. I got it from them. Like it's great. And it's cool because it just spreads and it just helps. So if people wanted to, as we kind of get to the end to wrap up, if people wanted to connect with you, what is the best way for them to do that if they wanted to help out as this goes out? This will be on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook. It'll be everywhere. I believe it's one other place too. I'm drawing a blank on the other place. But if they wanted to connect with you, what's the best way to find you? Is it just be social?
Facebook, Tracie Hulbert, TRACIE, and then Hulbert is HULBERT.
Okay.
My cell phone number is 636-295-3411.
Awesome.
I have an email, yourcoveragequeen@gmail.com.
Okay. And I'll tag you and everything too as it goes.
And that kind of
so
just
you can
goes to
click
any
on
part
it.
of my life. If you're like, you know what, you might know domestic abuse is something I'm passionate about. Who can you connect me to? Or you just want to know more, or business, or hey, I need a painter. Who do you know? Like any of those. Like that's. I just think when we're all open, and I mean, I'm an open book. I don't care.
That's great. Well, I'll make sure, like, as we post everything, you've seen the reels that come up, stuff, you'll be tagged and everything, and I'll also send them to you to use. But then that way, you guys can just click the link and find you that way too. So thank you guys for tuning in. It's been a great episode. This is amazing sitting here talking with Tracie and just everything wonderful about Lincoln County. I hope everybody really listens to this one a lot and runs with it. Support those that have supported us. Click the links in all these videos when they go up because it'll take you right to Tracie and how you can help her help others. And that's amazing. So thank you for coming on today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.